Hello, I'm a newlywed who will celebrate my second anniversary pretty soon. My husband and I both work. My husband works for a company, while I'm a freelancer, working out of my home. Well, people say that daughters-in-law are loved by their fathers-in-law, and sons-in-law are loved by their mothers-in-law. I'm in a total agreement with that saying, because it's exactly like that in our house. My father-in-law treats me like his own daughter, but especially with my mother, she treats my husband as if he is her own son. Once in a while, I even get jealous. Whenever I do, my mom would say, "To me, your husband Frank is not a son-in-law, but a son, my son." No one could imagine how she treats him so close to her heart. But every time I see my mom like that, one part of my heart aches a lot. There's a special reason why my mom is like this. I'm going to tell that story now. Whenever I think about my early childhood, it was so horrible that I still get the nightmares. There were originally 4 in our family: my dad, mom, an older brother, and me. My mom got married to my dad when she was in her early 20s and had my brother right away. The reason my mom married dad so young was because of money. She came from an impoverished family. My parents got married because my maternal grandpa's friend introduced him, saying the family is affluent, but the son is such a troublemaker that no one wants to marry him. However, if she marries him, his family has money, so she won't suffer from poverty at least. My maternal grandpa was hesitant to send his daughter off to marry a troublemaker, but since he heard that she wouldn't suffer due to poverty, he proceeded with the marriage. Thus, my mother was married off, almost like being sold to the family. My father turned out to be as true as the rumors, a troublemaker indeed. He would drink all day and spend money like water. He had a title from working for his dad's company, but living without any purpose. He was extravagant and was a playboy, and came home with another woman's perfume smell on his clothes. However, my mom decided to endure all, since his family was well-to-do. But later, she learned the truth, that his father's company was not that stable, nor was a well-known company as she had been told. The company was struggling to survive barely. From the beginning, I had no love for him, so when he played around, I was not hurt. However, when I became pregnant, such feelings changed because we had to raise our baby properly. When my mom was pregnant with my brother, she made a promise to herself to raise her child properly and different, not like her husband. When she had my brother, she concentrated on taking care of the baby. A few years later, she became pregnant with me. From then on, life started to change. Just before I was born, Grandpa's company started to deteriorate, and finally 2 months after I was born, the company went bankrupt. My grandpa went into hiding from the debtors, and the rest of the family had to move secretly into a cheap apartment in the basement that was damp and mildewy. It was a difficult life raising a young boy and an infant. However, Mom didn't despair but worked hard to raise us properly, with Dad, who didn't do anything to help out. Even though he earned no money and the situation got worse, my dad drank more than before. Mom was dissatisfied with Dad's such behavior. "Please, get a job at anything. Are you going to starve our kids?" When my mom complained that she couldn't take it anymore, he would only beat her up. "Are you disrespecting me just because I can't earn money?" My dad would hit her almost every day, and he even tried to beat me. Whenever he tried, my mom would try to protect us, blocking Dad with her own body. Growing up with a father like that, my older brother matured early. Even though he still was young, he would take care of me and worry about my mom. Our mom had to work since our dad wouldn't. She started working at a restaurant. When she went to work, my brother and I would be at home alone. Once in a while, at my mother's request, a neighbor woman would come to our house to babysit us. Our dad would be drinking all day or making an excuse that he was looking for a job and going out. Thus, it was my older brother who took care of me. My brother and I got older, but our dad still did not get any job, but continued his drinking. Whenever he had not enough money, he would beat us up to take his anger out on us. We heard nothing from our grandpa, and Mom didn't desire to contact her in-laws. Frankly, when our dad was like that, why would my mom want to contact her in-laws? Then one day, a notice of school attendance came in the mail. My dad still was a drunkard. My mom, who endured such harsh life, finally decided to make a major change in her life. She concluded that she couldn't raise us with our dad, especially since she had to think about educating us properly. Then, she put her plan into action. My dad was asleep, snoring from being drunk. My mom woke us up quietly and dressed us. She took the bag she had packed in advance and told us, "Listen, from now on, we're not going to live with your father." We nodded, then followed after our mom. We went to the bus terminal and got on the bus with our mom. Only Mom knew where we were going. My brother and I just held Mom's hands to follow after her. At first, I thought we were going to our maternal grandparents' house. Although we didn't visit, we heard that they lived in the countryside. However, Mom didn't go to our grandparents' house. She said that they were just as poor as we were. The place we went was my mom's middle school teacher's house. She called her teacher Aunt. Even though Mom had high grades in school, because of poverty, she couldn't go on to high school. Her teacher was very nice to our mom because she was proud of her. She had invited Mom to her house to feed her delicious food at times. When Mom was quitting school, her teacher cried and told her, "From now on, call me Aunt. I will become your aunt from now on. If you need help, come and see me at any time." Mom relied on those words and took us to her teacher's house. Although she brought us, she seemed worried and hesitated before ringing the doorbell. "Auntie, please forgive me for barging in without notice like this. However, because of my children, I had no choice. My oldest son will need to enter elementary school, so I couldn't bear to let him stay with his father." My mother whimpered as she said. Her teacher also shed tears as she looked at my mom. "How is it that a smart and kind student like you ends up marrying into such a family just because of money? I feel so bad." The two of them cried for a while. After they calmed down, the teacher said that we should find a way to live together. First of all, she said we needed to find a house, and since her cousin owned a building, she would find out if she had extra rooms. Fortunately, thanks to her, we were able to get a 2-bedroom apartment with a bathroom and a kitchen and moved there a few days later. Mom got a job cleaning the stores and managing the building. In addition, she also got a cashier job at a supermarket nearby. My brother and I were happy. We were able to be free from our tyrant father. In fall, my brother enrolled at a nearby elementary school. While he was at school, I had to play alone in the apartment, but my mom worked close by so I didn't worry. Our family was reduced from 4 to 3, but our happiness seemed to have doubled. In that household, we didn't have to worry about anything. We were still poor, but happy. Mom's teacher would bring some food, and when our mom was busy at work, she would come by to babysit us. By the time I also enrolled in elementary school, Mom was able to work more, and her income increased. Our brother became more mature, and like Mom, he got high grades in school. He was a model student throughout his elementary school. I also was influenced by him, so I studied hard. After my brother enrolled in middle school, he began worrying about his future. He said he wanted to earn money and not go to college. However, our mother had different thoughts. "If you are truly thinking of this, mother, you shouldn't be thinking about earning money, but go to college. You can earn money after you graduate from college." However, my brother's will was unchangeable. For a while, Mom and my brother clashed with this, and I was stuck in the middle. Honestly, I wanted my brother to go to college too. He was an outstanding student and could have gone to a top university. Since I thought it that way, it must have been worse for my mother. However, my brother was stubborn. "Mom, I could go to college later. I want to earn money, and when our finances are stabilized, I will study again. But if I go to college now, I won't be able to concentrate on my studies." How could I spend your hard-earned money after working all day on my tuition and spending money? You have to be thinking about Sandy's getting married and saving money for that too. You should not suffer anymore. Please, stop saying I need to go to college." My mom was sad that my brother wouldn't budge on his decision, but finally she decided to listen to him. My brother went to a technical high school and obtained several licenses for technical skills. In his senior year, he got a job. When he got his first pay, he bought steaks and cooked for Mom and me. Even though Mom was proud of him, she apologized to him. When my brother became 20, I entered high school. My brother told me to study hard and go to college. Of course, I refused. To me, it was my brother, not me, who should go to college because his grades were higher than mine. However, he was adamant. He said that he could enter college at any time he wished, and I shouldn't worry about him. I was forced to obey my brother, and I studied diligently as if my life depended on it. As a result, my grades jumped higher than my middle school grades, and seeing my report card, my mom and my brother were overjoyed at my accomplishments. That's how each member of our family lived diligently. However, a terrible sadness occurred unexpectedly. It was the death of my brother. It was a day off for my brother, but he said that he wanted to complete the leftover work from the day before and went to work in the late morning. He got hit by a drunken driver nearby his work. When my mom and I arrived at the emergency room in the hospital, my brother was receiving CPR. Mom and I cried, praying for my brother to live, but at the end, my brother died. When the doctor was declaring my brother's death, I just couldn't believe that my brother had passed away. My brother, who caressed my head, who encouraged me to study hard only a few hours ago. How could I leave this world that easily? At that moment, my mom collapsed on the floor, crying. I could almost feel from her cries how heartbroken she was. At that moment, I woke up. I then accepted my brother's death. I hated the person who killed my brother. If I could, I wanted to exchange his life with my brother's. Then, a hospital administrator approached Mom and me. She hesitatingly opened her mouth. "Is it possible for you to donate your son's organs?" My mom and I looked at her blankly. She said that there were many people waiting for an organ donor, and my brother's organs could save lives. Mom hesitated. Even though he was dead, taking his organs out of his body seemed too drastic. At Mom's reluctance, the woman whispered, "Your son would be doing something very meaningful." When Mom heard that, she looked at the lady for a while and said that she would give her signature. My brother gave his organs to several people, giving them a new life, and went to heaven. My mom and I lived in sadness for a while. The empty place left by my brother was bigger than ever, and the sadness did not disappear. Despite his death, we had to go on living. Mom had to go back to work, and I had to go back to school. We had to eat and sleep when the time came. However, we couldn't return to our previous life. Our sadness was just too deep. The one who helped us through this difficult period was my mom's teacher. She came by to cook for us and to comfort us. It was the same at the school. From my homeroom teacher to my friends, everyone was kind to me to care for me. After my brother died, on the 49th day, Mom and I organized my brother's clothes and his things. Then we found his savings bank book. It had all the money he saved from his pay. On the outside of the bank book had a post-it attached saying, "My beloved mom and kind sister Sandy, let's all be happy." My mom and I cried again for a long time after seeing the bank book. We didn't even have my brother, so what good was this money? I couldn't understand why this would happen to my brother and blamed God. "Sandy, let's do as your brother had asked. Let's be happy. That way, your brother would be looking down at us from heaven and be happy too, right? Since it's what your brother wishes for us, we must become happy for him." My mom held my hands tightly and tried to force a smile. Looking at my mom like that, I also tried to smile. I made a promise that I will live my brother's share too, to make my mom happy. After that day, we went back to our usual daily life and tried hard to live diligently. As a result of my earnest work, I entered college. By that time, we had received a settlement from the drunk driver and from the insurance company. In truth, it was the blood money that was exchanged for my brother's life, so I didn't want to touch it. However, my mom thought differently from me. She said that we should spend the money for my college tuition. Since my brother had said it often when he was alive that he would send me to college, she wanted me to think as if my brother was still telling me to go to college. Eventually, I decided to follow my mom's request. While attending college, I always received scholarship due to my excellent grades. I also obtained various work-related certificates. Since I was attending college exchanged with my brother's life, I wanted to do as much as I could on my own without spending his money. Fortunately, I was able to get a job even before I graduated. On my graduation day, I took a photo with my mom wearing the graduation cap and took it to my brother's ossuary. I thanked my brother for sending me to college and enabling me to be employed at a good company. Then, I left a photo next to my brother's urn that held his ashes, so that my brother could see it down from heaven. I was swamped when I started working because I was trying to learn and get adjusted. As time passed, the work became familiar, and I got closer with my colleagues that I began to enjoy my time at work. Soon after, I started to date as well. He's my current husband. He's 6 years older than I am, and he's my co-worker's friend, although it is hard to call him a friend because they now have become enemies. That co-worker was infamous for hitting on new female employees. I was one of his victims too. I still get shivers whenever I think about that time. That co-worker would wait for me after work outside the building and kept hitting on me. How about today? Let's go for a drink. Because I was a trainee, it was hard for me to flatly refuse. Suddenly, my husband appeared at that time. Hey, are you still doing such a tacky thing? How old are you to keep hassling young female employees? Does your girlfriend know you're like this? My husband frowned and chastised him. Then, he took his hand to pull his friend's hand away from my wrist. My co-worker looked displeased. I will escort this lady to the bus station. Why don't you go and see your girlfriend? My husband later told me that he didn't want to send me off alone because he was worried his friend would follow me. When my husband escorted me to the bus station, I thanked him several times. Don't worry, all my classmates dislike him too. Just because he's our classmate, we let him be in our circle. In the future, be careful and stay away from him. That was our first meeting, and a few days later, my husband reappeared after work. I learned later that he became interested in me and he wanted to date me. However, he said at that time that he came as my bodyguard to protect me from his friend. Of course, I also became attracted to him. His friend got fired from my work for sexual harassment, and my husband confessed his love for me then. Because I was interested in him, we became a couple on that day. After we dated for about 6 months, I told my husband about my family and my brother. While we were going together, my husband often visited me at home and was very nice to my mom. My mom especially liked my husband, saying that he reminded her of my brother and felt as if my brother had come back to life. At times, her eyes reddened when he was with her. I had a stronger faith in my husband because he really treated my mom so kindly. After a year, a talk of marriage surfaced. My husband said that he had no confidence in loving anyone else other than me, and that he would treat my mom like his own mother, and proposed to me. I joyfully accepted his proposal. I met his parents and received their approval for our marriage, and we set a date for both families to meet at a restaurant. However, with a week before the date to meet, my husband suddenly asked to delay the meeting of the parents. At first, I thought they must have some reason, but when the new date approached, my husband asked me to delay it again. When he delayed it for the third time, I couldn't hold down my anger. I told him that if he's going to be like this, let's just cancel the whole thing. I'm really sorry. It's because I haven't been able to take care of an important thing, and not because I don't have my heart in it. Please trust me and wait for me. Please. When I looked at my husband's face, he seemed sincere, so I decided to trust him and wait again. However, I wanted to know what was the important thing. I asked him several times, but he would just tell me to please wait and wouldn't tell me. I had no choice but to be quiet and wait. 2 months had passed, and my mom nagged about meeting his parents. I had to give her excuses to get out of it. Then my husband finally said to set the meeting date. We were able to meet finally, and my mom seemed very nervous on the day of the meeting. She wanted me to get married as soon as possible and had waited for this day so badly. But when the actual day had come, she was worried about greeting them as a single mother. I consoled my mom and headed to the buffet restaurant. My mom and I entered frozen with nervous expressions. My husband and his family were already there. I apologized for being late and was getting ready to be seated when my husband came over to my mom and hugged her longer than usual. My mom became flustered and urged him to take a seat. At that moment, my parents-in-law and my husband's younger brother came over to my mom, and each took turns hugging her tightly. I was dumbfounded. I whispered to my husband, "Oh my, what a great welcome." I stuttered, trying to make ease of slight awkwardness. Then my husband lifted his face. His face was covered with dripping tears. "Mother, I'm sorry to have recognized you too late. I'm really sorry." My mom awkwardly looked at my husband, trying to make sense out of the situation. She asked him what he was talking about. Then, my future mother-in-law came over to my mom and grabbed both of her hands warmly and said, "How heartbroken you must have been, Mrs. Livingston. As a parent, it was a decision hard to make. We're sorry and grateful. We're indebted to you forever." She was crying as she said. Even at that point, both my mom and I didn't know what she was talking about. Then my husband approached my mom, taking her hand to his chest, and told us. Finally, we understood. "Mother, can you feel it? It's your son's heart beating. Because you have donated your son's organ, I lived. Because of Sandy's brother, I was able to meet Sandy and become your son-in-law." At that moment, my mother staggered as if her legs gave in on her. Then she hugged my husband, bursting into tears. My mom cried like that for a long time, patting my husband on his back. I couldn't say anything about the shocking situation. I only shed tears. Who could know that I would fall in love with a guy who received my brother's heart? After my mother calmed down somewhat, my future father-in-law explained. My son had a bad heart from young, and when he reached 20, his heart gave in and the only solution was a heart transplant. His name was on a waiting list, but heart donation was difficult, so we even prepared for his funeral. However, thanks to your son's donation, my son was able to live. Before getting married, my husband wanted to give his thanks to the donor and went to the center to find out about the donor's information, but the center refused. He went there many times, begging for the information, but he was refused, so he resorted to a private agent to find out, which also turned out to be in vain. That was the reason for his continued delays of the meeting of the parents. Then, the private agent called, saying he found the donor's information, and when he saw the name and the address, he learned that it was my brother whose heart he received, and was shocked. When his parents learned about it from him, they were also astonished. However, they felt that it was a match made in heaven. It couldn't happen for any other reason. "Mrs. Livingston, we believe that your son has arranged these two to be together from heaven. How could you explain it any other way? So please do not worry about your daughter. We will take good care of her as our own daughter. My mother also told them that she would treat their son as her own. That's how we became a daughter and a son in our respective families. These days, I often put my hands on my husband's chest. When I close my eyes and listen to his heart, I feel as if my own brother is next to me. On behalf of my brother, who brought us together, I plan to love my husband and care for him with all my heart forever. I will think that my brother is by my side always. In this world, we don't know what fated encounters we would have. But I believe those of you who are listening to my story are also good people fated to encounter with me. Thus, I wish all of you to be truly happy. Thank you. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. Have a wonderful day.